Hey guys, J King here, and today we're going to be playing some ranked. Now, I haven't played ranked since the patch came out, and I literally just sat down today, a couple hours ago, picked a deck that I thought was relatively untouched, made a couple of changes, and since then I'm 15 and 1. Um, I'm up a lot of points, so I thought I would record some, show you the deck, show you some gameplay, and in a couple of days I'm actually going to be going on a 3 week or so long trip backpacking across the UK, so won't be any videos during that time. Maybe I'll record a second video and uh, upload it at some point while I'm overseas, but I wanted to give you something before I went on that trip, so here goes. Now, the deck, you'll be fairly familiar with the archetype. It is US German midrange. So, because the patch had pretty big hits to Britain Air, with the nerf to Paris, the nerf to United We Stand, the nerf to Wellington, as well as really, really big hits to um, the combined arms deck with the pretty massive nerf to Heinkel and the hit to Paris. Those were the top two ladder decks from the previous months. So, with those both being nerfed, I thought, what is an aggressive deck which was either untouched or being held back by the previous two decks? And the answer, my immediate thought went to US German. I've had a lot of success with this deck, even in the past metas. Um, and now I have made a few changes to it. Before, this deck was a lot more slow, more about winning on value, just slowly getting ahead with cards like We Can Do It. Um, at one point, I ran triple California, and then I ran island hopping and research to just get as much value out of a long period of time as the game went on. However, there's a lot more control decks, which means going longer. Control decks are just going to be better at going longer. Um, as well as the nerf to California makes it significantly less powerful than before. So I decided to make this deck a little bit more aggressive. I put in 2 Blitzkriegs. As a result, I took out Island Hopping, since if the deck's running Blitzkrieg, you would rather have Blitzkrieg to do an immediate amount of damage, end the game quick, than Island Hopping, which is going to give you a lot more value over time. I kept in the research, just because I think this card is just too powerful not to put in the deck. I also took out the Medical Battalion and one We Can Do It, because the deck's slightly faster. You don't want very expensive units which don't really do anything, or very expensive orders that don't really do anything if you're lacking a board. And I put in 2 Dive Bombings. Now, I took out a Flampanzer, I took out a Sudden Strike, because I've seen a lot less aggro, there's a lot less specifically buff aggro, so it's less important to get rid of a super buffed aggro unit. And now, Dive Bombing, it can still accomplish that if that needs to be the case. However, it's also really good tempo against control decks. If they play a Seaforth, you, instead of trading in all 3 of your units into the Seaforth, you can do Dive Bombing and kill the Seaforth without losing any of your units. So in a lot of ways, this Dive Bombing can be just give your units immune this turn if you're going to be trading down the board. It can be used to kill a cavalry regiment on turn 1. It can be used to stop a unit from killing you on the following turn by reducing its attack to 0. A lot of uses for this Dive Bombing, and I put in 2 First Marines to just make the deck slightly faster, slightly more units getting to the front line immediately, to help with that Blitzkrieg. And yeah, that's about all the changes I made to the deck. I'll post the deck code in the description. And with that, let's just get into a few games. Hopefully, this crazy win streak continues. But if it doesn't, such is life. And I'll try to explain my plays as we go. Hopefully we don't get as long queues as the last video, but this is ranked in the middle of the season, so it should be pretty fast. And Uwu Moy, he is top 10, or was very recently top 10. He's probably top 20 if he's not top 10. And I suspect a lot of players have been switching to this Noen's German-US Fast Heinz deck, some with fast hinds, some without fast hinds. It could be that. However, I don't know if I want to commit to keeping Hellcat. However, I've also seen Uwu just play German Control. And if it's German Control, I might want to keep the Sherman. However, with 32nd and Red Devils, I think this is a pretty good hand regardless of what deck he's playing, so I'm just going to toss back the other 3 cards. Always start with 32nd Infantry. Pulls 1 out of your deck, which makes it less likely to draw 1 off the top of your deck, as well as the Red Devils has Blitz, so if I wanted Red Devils in the front line, it can get to the front line on turn 2 regardless. So he passed turn 1 and 2, which means he's almost certainly control. Now the question is, how do we best want to deal with that? I could do Combat Engineers move up, but if he has Flam Panzer, he will kill 3-1 in the front line. And then Red Devils move up will die, and 32nd won't be able to get the buff off of Combat Engineers. I can do double 32nd, however, that's not really going to accomplish anything. He will reach Root out before I reach the ability to save them if we can do it, or get a Blitzkrieg off, punch a lot of damage through. So what I'm going to do is 1 32nd and move up the other one. This way, if he has Flam Panzer, he's going to Flam Panzer the one in the front line, which will allow me to do Combat Engineers, move up the one in the support line, becomes a 3-1, which will trade with the Flam Panzer. Unfortunately, he has an ankle. There was not a whole lot. Yeah, I don't think there was anything I could have done which would have kept me safe from Heinkel. Which means it is time to get the Red Devils up. There's no way to kill Heinkel this turn. I could retreat it to hand. However, that does just set up for me getting blown out by Root out. And now the half-track's going to come down on this Bologna regiment. And the Heinkel will. Actually, this is the first time I've seen Bologna regiment since the nerf. And actually, because of that, it costs 4 in his hand now. Because I retreated it 2-hand and then killed the Heinkel. This can't kill the Red Devils, so it hits the Combat Engineers. I could dive bomb and kill the Flam Panzer for free. I could just get the first Marines to the front line. I am a fan of the first Marines to the front line play, actually. So, if he does Mare Nostrum kill one of these units, I can kill it on the following turn with 101st Airborne. He can't kill Red Devils and play Bologna in the same turn. This also stops him from being able to throw out one of the 5-5 Blitz infantries. I've got the name of the card, it's like 929th or something. So he's just going to throw it to Bologna and then trade into the first Marines, actually. So, here I have a choice. I can do half-track, hit face for 5, which is not an absolutely terrible play. He would overdraw a card. Or I can do dive bombing, hit face for 2. I'm going to go for the... That is actually a tough call. I'm going to go for the half-track. And the reason I'm going for the half-track is dive bombing can be used in the future. For example, if he throws down something expensive like a JU or an FW, half-track can be used. However, dive bombing is slightly more useful if he throws out like a big tank, like if he gets another Flam Panzer down. If he gets like a Semavante down. Dive bombing can be used to prevent big Mare Nostrum healing. Also, half-track puts an additional unit on the board. Like with the Blitzkrieg draw, this would be huge. Of course, he's probably just going to root out. He's drawn through way too many cards of his deck to not have root out. Blitzkrieg top deck here is lethal. Now, dive bombing is looking very good. And do I want to play a 30-second infantry? I think so. So the reason I want to play it is there's still one in my deck, and exactly that, from the deep. Now, there certainly wasn't a guarantee he could have from the deep. It is possible that he just doesn't have a countermeasure up. I play 30-second, and he plays root out, and it's another unit that dies. But it's, in that case, it would be losing a 2-1 infantry, except the benefit is I am no longer risking just drawing a 30-second off the top of my deck for a dead draw. And if he had root out and then I drew 30-second, that would be pretty game ending. And of course here, we just have lethal with the Hellcat. And there, you saw just tempo with the double half tracks, the dive bombing. I didn't need a Blitzkrieg to finish it. I didn't need Sherman to draw a ton of cards for value. Just consistent pressure with tempo is enough to beat out German Italy Control, one of the best control decks in the game. And that puts us up to 650 points. So something I'll talk about while we're sitting in queue is, as I'm sure you're all aware, normally I push for first every single season. There's not really been a season since March 2019. I believe it was, maybe April 2019. There hasn't been a season where I didn't at least try to get first. Going to take a quick break from that conversation to talk about this mulligan. Sending back the Whirlwind for sure. It's not terrible, but Germany doesn't play a ton of air units, and this hand's already looking very good in terms of the start, so I want to make sure I have like value cards in hand later. I'm actually going to keep the Sherman because of just how powerful Combat Engineers 32nd and 35T is on their own. This should be able to deal with, if it's aggro, this should be able to deal with their start. If it's control, I want the Sherman to get the value, make sure I don't get blown out by discard. Now, the reason I went for Combat Engineers first is because of these 35Ts in hand. If it was control, I would be able to get a lot of damage in very early. Of course, it is control, but with Careless Talks. However, I don't think that card is particularly common or popular, so it was an unfortunate punish, but one that I think doesn't really hurt us too bad. Because I'm going second again, he will reach root out next turn, which means I probably don't want a 35T. I'll probably play Red Devils. So definitely getting this to the front line. Now the question is, do I want to throw Red Devils into the front line, or just play 30-second move up? The benefit of 30-second move up is that I'll probably still have the front line next turn, and then I don't have to worry about 30-second in my hand. However, if I do 30-second move up, I still have 7 cards in my hand. Next turn I draw to 8, I play a Sherman, I go to 9, and then I will overdraw. So, I think Red Devils is actually better. Makes room in my hand, 4 cards with Sherman, and the other downside of if I went for 30-second move up is he could just root out. It would hurt his own unit, but it would kill all 3 of mine, stopping Sherman. He could still stop Sherman with trade Sudden Strike, something like that. But yeah, what I was saying before is this month is probably going to be the first season ever where I don't push for first. And the reason for that is, as I mentioned, I'm going on a 3-week backpacking trip across the UK. I'm going to be enjoying the sights. I'm going to be staying in hostels. I'm not going to be able to play like 5 hours, 6 hours a day. to push for first. I think I'm in a position where I can reasonably get top 38 fairly easily, if that is my wish. Kind of don't want him to heal a ton more, but I also would like to draw with Sherman. I'll do this. If he has Weird Out, he has Weird Out. So, I'm not confident I'll get top 6, and if I do get top 6, I'm not going to be pushing for first. I will be getting into top 6 to get into that OCC. Because I have been in every single OCC since the beginning, and that is something that I would like to keep up. It would be sad to the day where I finally don't make it into OCC. And I think I'd have a reasonable chance in the qualifiers, but it's 16 people. You can't say anything for certain. So I'll try for top 6, but if I don't make it, just understand I am traveling. I'm not like slipping. I'm not washed. He actually sudden strikes the tanks in the front line to save himself slightly, like a small amount of damage, but that was likely a mistake because it lets me get my Sherman off. And the reason I half-tracked is 989. That's what the card's called. The reason I half-tracked is 989 last turn, or 2 turns previously, is to remove the Mare Nostrum. It would almost certainly heal him for an additional 12 if I didn't half-track it. So he does get the benefit of getting the unit healed, and getting to play it again after a root out. But I gain the benefit of him having 12 less health, so that's a trade-off I'm willing to take. He might Lion for a day, the Sherman. My hand isn't looking too great. His units trade very well into mine, and I don't have another Sherman yet. He does just have... Okay, Panther Chief. There's a question about whether or not I just want to kill that now with Hellcat. Because if I let him get a second Mare Nostrum on that, that's just heal 14. However, I think I am going to go for a play like this. Healing 14 obviously is a massive setback, but if he has the Mare Nostrum, he's probably going to pull it off on something eventually. And I just lose so much tempo by just throwing in the Hellcat into this Panther G. He might not even have Mare Nostrum, and if he wants to spend 5 credits doing Mare Nostrum heal, like Mare Nostrum attack, the tempo isn't worth the health, but it's not. It does make the healing more acceptable. What I really need now is a Sherman. If he doesn't have a Mare Nostrum, it's also possible I could get a blowout win out of nowhere with a Blitzkrieg with double Hellcats. If he moves up to the front line, I can just kill it with Kali. That would be a very massive mistake on his part if he moves it up. Now, what I would really like is a unit that would let me play around Careless Talk. Excuse me. Unfortunately, that is not the reality we are living in. So if I play this California and it dies to Careless Talk, that is brutal. That it might just turn around the entire game. However, the amount of value I get off of doing California trade is insane. I think I'm just gonna go for it. Works out. Of course, had I done Hellcat, I would have been able to move up and attack, but then I'm just very vulnerable to a Lion for a day. Fully removing the board. Also, keeping Hellcats is nice because, one, previously mentioned the Blitzkriegs for crazy burst out of nowhere, but also, two, if he plays Leopold, Hellcat is essentially the only card in my deck that can deal with it. He cannot start Comet Racing. It's likely because he has... I'm assuming it's because he has, I forgot what the card's called. Do I weaken Do It or First Marines? Probably should have figured that out before attacking, but I did want to test for decisive defense. It is Airstrike, actually. That's an unfortunate discard. However, it does mean that it is not, I cannot remember, Envelop. That's the name of the card. I assumed it was Envelop, where he goes face with Comet, and then either I hit him for 4 every turn, he hits me for 4 every turn, and he'll win faster, or I move up the Callion and destroy both units. However, it was actually Airstrike, which makes him going face with Comet very confusing. I guess he has Leopold. FW. That's almost certainly getting retreated. Lion for a day on the Cali. Yeah, when I said this was almost certainly getting retreated, that it was under the assumption that he was killing Cali. I didn't think he would play a 5-5 played into a 5-2 Cali if he didn't have a way to deal with it. So if I retreat, that's 3-9. I can bring him to 11. And then next turn I have 11 for 9 credits. I'd actually have 13. I think that is fine. There's a lot of math right there. Basically, I do this, bring him to 11. Next turn I have lethal with Hellcat if he doesn't heal. I can also move up half track to deal an extra 2. I don't think he can really afford to play another, like replay the FW. Africa Core. That's good. There's still a lot of ways he can survive. At this point, I think the most likely would be the Blitz Fury Infantry to kill Flame Panzer, the Bologna Regiment to guard up. So we can do it 5, 6, 7 to move and attack with the half track, 8, 9 with the Sherman. I can get through for 3 damage while drawing. At this point, I'm really looking for a Blitzkrieg. Because of all these Blitz tanks in my hand, it would just end the game. He does keep the FW on board, which means he will likely be healing for 6 with Mare Nostrum. He goes to 14. Blitzkrieg still ends it pretty decisively. I'm at 19. I don't think he can really do anything about that. If he plays Leopold moves up, I can retreat the FW, kill Leopold with Hellcat. If he does kill half-track Leopold, Hellcat kills Leopold. Does FW Sherman. I can do 101st and Hellcat. Although at that point I'd be very close to lethal. Trade into any of these plus Leopold would mean 35Ts. The 35T top deck is lethal, or Combat Engineer's top deck is lethal. Oh my goodness. Wolfpack to discard the second Hellcat. He's played 2 discard cards and they hit both Hellcats. So, that needs to happen. That moves up. And I'm actually going to go for the first Marines rather than the Whirlwind, and the reason of that is because of those Blitzkriegs. The first Marines can't attack the turn it's played, the Whirlwind can, which means, for example, if he kills these 2 units anyways, what would I rather have in the front line? A Whirlwind with a Blitzkrieg that might not finish him off, or a First Marines plus Whirlwind, it will double the damage of a top deck Blitzkrieg. Does 2 damage two less damage this turn, but a potential 6 more damage next turn. And even if I don't drop top deck Blitzkrieg, I can still just move up Whirlwind to get that 2 damage I lost last turn back. So he can't trade into that. If he had Mary Nostrum, he definitely would have used it, because he is just dead without countermeasures. So we've played around deployment, countermeasures, played around move to the front line of countermeasures, and we played around attack the HQ countermeasures. Which means there is nothing he could have. It is dead, unfortunately for him. And that is 6 points, 2-6-5-6. Probably have enough time for one more game in this video. We've seen 2 German-Italy control decks. Hopefully we can get maybe something more aggressive, show off different matchup. It's also possible that when I finish this video, I'll just record another one, maybe even another 2 to upload while in the UK. And the following Saturday, like the upcoming Saturday, when this video comes out, it will be the 18th of June. There is OCC being live streamed. I am in the top 8. I will certainly be trying to make it. If I do make it, it will be from like a library or a cafe in Dublin. But I would encourage all of you to tune in and watch that. It's on the official cards Twitch, live streamed. It's also on their official cards YouTube channel, live streamed there. You can also watch VODs in either of those locations. So we have Germany once again. I'm going to keep Devils, gonna keep 35T. That's a pretty standard pick. I will never keep California. Half track, if I'm certain that he's German control, half track is not a terrible pick. Especially going first. However, I'm not certain of that, so I'm gonna mulligan it. Stars and Stripes not great, but Sherman does shore up the rest of his hand, assuming this Red Devils lives. $35P dies to Careless. Well, next turn we'll just try again. 2 Careless decks in a row. Don't discard Sherman. That is best case scenario. So we have 2 avenues to win. We have the Sherman to just draw more cards, which makes all of his discard cards a lot worse. Or we have just Blitzkrieg to end it. That is really annoying. I'm going to Sherman. It does risk, of course, drawing a second 30-second. Or, yeah. So there's 3 in my deck, which means it is just under a 1 in 11 per draw. And there's 2 draws. So, it's still, well, 3 draws if you count my top deck next turn. Still pretty unlikely. And of course, if you just play C16, I can discard any top deck 30 seconds. So we're definitely keeping Blitzkrieg. Definitely keeping 35G, definitely keeping half track. It's between the PIR and the 30-second. The 30-second helps thin my deck, which will help me just to get to better cards faster. However, the benefit of discarding a 30-second is it also means if I top deck a second 30-second, I'd still just draw through my deck like normal. I think I'm going to discard the PIR. I don't really want to discard this, or return to hand this Oyama, but I need to get the damage in. So if I move up, next turn I can do 2, 4. Yeah, I can hit face for 4 next turn. And if he doesn't guard up, I could just win the game. I could just get him for 12 here. With move up, Blitzkrieg. I'm 1 credit off winning. The other possibility would just be to hit him twice, down to 12. So this way, I'm trying to set up a situation where I win if he doesn't play the guard. He's probably going to play the guard, but it does sort of force him off curve. Second U16. Probably discard the 32nd. Alright. I'm not trading into that. And I think I'm going to keep the third one in hand just for discard's sake. Panther G, he has no Mare Nostrum, so that's not that big of a threat, and the Sherman draw is huge. There's consideration to playing around camp, like, from the deep, for example. Dive bombing. Now that is what we've been looking for. That lets me kill that for free. Hit face. Move up. Obviously he can do root out. Move up the Panther G. I can do 101st Airborne trade into it. Naval Operation also works. Whirlwind's top deck Whirlwind is lethal. Top deck 35T is lethal. So I'm gonna play this. Well, I know we didn't have countermeasures last time. So unless he top decked one, we should be fine. Do I hit face? I actually think I hit face here. Cause again, there's no Mare Nostrum. I'm not scared of him healing a ton in this matchup. I'm just trying to basically just get across the finish line with this Blitzkrieg. The Annihilations, he can't. Yeah, he's just dead to bullet if he Annihilations. Which means he's, like, worst case scenario, root out again. However, he would have to attack first before root out because of the ambush. Sendai trade, he's still dead. Not accounting for countermeasures, of course. Pursuit. And that doesn't give him enough credits to attack. There's no one-cost countermeasures that can stop this if I don't play a unit. Which which means he is dead. 280, and I get a US pack. It's a good way to end off the video. 3 wins into German control. I'll end off the video by opening this pack. Again, thanks for watching, if you made it this far. Pretty good pack, actually. Like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends, all that stuff YouTubers tell you to do. And, important, I have a Discord. Join the Discord, link will be in the description. There you can ask me any questions, share ideas, get deck lists, and just hang out with my community, and your community. So I would strongly recommend joining me there. You can also ask me any questions about the deck or anything else in the comments. Thank you for watching. I will probably go record a couple more videos for while I'm in the UK. Goodbye.